For the young men and women who decide to serve their country, the decision to enlist is not an easy one. However, it is often just as hard for their families.
Both my grandfathers actually cried the day I enlisted because they were present. My mom was not thrilled. It took me about a year to convince her because I enlisted at 17 and you have to have both parents.
I would say my mom was the hardest hit because I was the oldest, and also I think she had some separation anxiety and not knowing, because one day you're like 18 and the next day you're away from home for the first time. And
they were hesitant because they had just, my mom and dad brought us away from the war, the Vietnam War, and my mom wasn't too pleased because she didn't want to, her bringing us out of that situation just for me to go in, so yeah, they weren't too happy about it.
Mixed emotions because I was going to be away from home and that, and I had a little one on the way, but through it all, I think everybody was on board with the decision. And
when people think about serving in the military, they often picture the fighting, wars, and battles that are seen on the news. However, we learn from our veterans that there are many different roles you may find yourself in as a member of the United States military.
Responsibilities varied from job to job. During my deployment, I was originally deployed as logistics, sitting behind a computer, did it for 2 weeks, and then was stuck on a convoy support for the rest of that. I went through heavy weapons school and also tanker school.
Drawing blood, working in the laboratory, dealing with microbiology, parasitology, urinalysis, and blood bank. So it was a little mix of everything that was dealing with the laboratory and hospital setting. So, and a highlight to my career was actually working inside the Pentagon, drawing blood from 2- and 3-star generals.
I was with the admin actually, so what I did was I handled all the NJP cases that was brought up, which is the non-judicial punishment. I did all the legal work, the anything on the admin side, as far as like emergency orders that they need, if they had an emergency back home, I would get that straight away for them, make sure they got funding, flight, make sure everything is booked, and just taking care of the Marines.
our unit was responsible. We were builders. I was in an engineering unit. I know some other branches of the military might call it a red horse. So our unit built things. We were in charge of building things like helicopter pads.
General William Sherman is famous for a very simple quote, "War is hell." This quote alludes to the very real sacrifice that veterans sign up for when enlisting in the military and deciding to serve their country.
I did. I was in Somalia, so we went in right after Black Hawk Down for Operation Continued Hope and Operation Restore Hope. The worst day was probably being fired at in Somalia and not knowing where it was coming from, where we were stationed or bunked. They call it Sniper Alley. So just hearing gunfire and not knowing where that gunfire is coming from is pretty scary.
And then I got stuck with a needle. So during the time when that was going on, it was during the big AIDS crisis and everything that was kind of going on. So then you have all this testing that you have to go on and make sure that you don't, get that. So I would say that was probably the worst time.
The hardest day for me was without a doubt when I was in Honduras. Very hot place, humid-wise, temperature-wise. Hot, beyond hot. And you're building helicopter pads, so now you're adding heat to concrete, which makes it even hotter. I had a situation where I wasn't drinking enough water, and salt pills and potassium, which is bad for your muscles in case you didn't know. So I had a situation where my legs, the thigh part of my legs, where your biggest muscles are, locked up on me, and I mean, I had to be carried out. I was out for 2 days because my legs just would not work. Without a doubt, one of the scariest times of my life. But
First day of the service for me, I had lost a friend of about a year. We were just outside Baghdad, and we were doing convoy support. We were lead vehicle. I was on the gunner. He was the driver. And we hit an IED, and he was pretty much killed instantly.
When asked if they would choose to serve again, every one of the Buffett veterans immediately said yes. This tells us that with all the difficult parts that come with the uniform, there are also numerous benefits.
Knowing that you're part of something that's bigger than yourself, that when you put it on, that you get recognized for who you are, and I would say that. And when you go somewhere, people know, hey, you know, he's who he is, and you know, he's something that's different than everyone else. So.
With the military, you build a camaraderie. It's kind of like any job. Teachers build friendships with teachers, others within the building. Military is no different, but there are people you every single day you see, you work with. They understand what you're going through. They understand what you do, and like if you have any issues, they're the ones you can go to.
that's part of serving for me. Besides, doing something with your country, for your country, is the friends that you make. I worked with a lot of guys that were involved in doing a lot of different kinds of construction kind of things. Really good with teaching you what they know, which has helped me considerably since I got out. Now,
I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, speaking of world, I got to travel the world and what they promised me, you know. But the hardest part is like being away from family. That was the worst part. But other than that, they promise you'll get to see the world, and you do get to see the world.